What's up, guys? Do we have a special guest on today? The amazing Morgan Danielle. How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming on. So, Morgan, on your Facebook page, it says, attract the love you desire, ready to heal the void you feel so you can release the toxic relationship cycle. Whoa.
Yes, my life's work.
That's amazing. So you are a coach.
I am a coach, yes, and an internal family systems therapist.
Okay, I didn't know that. So how long have you been a coach for?
Going on 3 years. So since 2019.
Since 2019. And what'd you do before?
I did a slew of things, but I was a Reiki practitioner, bartender, cosmetologist, all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. So you're coaching now and you're helping women?
Yes, I solely work with women.
Okay. And so how'd you become a coach? Let's talk about that. Take us through the journey.
Yeah, I feel like I actually started out in health coaching. And as I was helping people heal their relationships with their bodies and food, I realized I was actually also helping them heal their relationships with other people, because every relationship that we have is an extension of the relationship that we have with ourselves. And so I got into coaching just through struggling with my own journey. I was originally a health coach. Then I specialized in helping women overcome eating disorders. And so everything that I've coached on is something that I've overcome in my life. And so once you kind of figure out how to get over something that's been so painful in your life, you just want to scream it from the rooftop. So that's what I started doing. I started posting on social media about it. And it all just kind of came together in that way of just, this is your purpose kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I had the same similar story. So let's talk a little bit more about your past. You said because now you're coaching people of stuff that you've processed yourself and been through. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So a lot of the women that I work with, most of the women that I work with struggle with love addiction, codependency, toxic and abusive relationships, settling for less than they deserve in relationships. And so for most of my life, ever since I can remember, when I first started dating, at 12, 13, I was always in toxic and abusive relationships. And I always had really low self-esteem. I didn't value myself. And so I would always go for people that just treated me really badly. And I never understood why. Like, I always wanted a relationship. And I wanted it so badly that I would literally settle for anything. And so when I realized that I was doing that, in my early to mid 20s, I started to understand that it was all a reflection of me. It's like I was always wondering, why does this keep happening to me? It's like the same person that I'm dating over and over again. And I realized that it's actually a reflection of myself, the way that I treat myself, the way that I grew up. Our subconscious continuously seeks out people and experiences that mirrors back to us, what we went through or how we felt in childhood. And so we pick romantic partners based on that. And so once I really started to understand and have awareness around the cause of having toxic and abusive relationships, the reason for codependency, I think a lot of people get really stuck in thinking that codependency and their attachment style is a life sentence. And it's not. It's really just a series of coping mechanisms that you developed, very early on in life in order to survive. But as we get older, we don't need those to survive anymore because we are out of, the family dynamic, so to say.
Mm-hmm. So you fixed yourself or how you thought of yourself first, right?
Yeah, it all came down to healing the relationship with myself, realizing my value, realizing my worth. And when I started to realize my worth and who I was and what I stood for, and that I actually didn't have to be in these experiences, everything changed for me. I really struggled with depression, anxiety. I was diagnosed. It was a misdiagnosis, but I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder because my emotions and my nervous system was so dysregulated. And so I was diagnosed with all of these things. I had eating disorders. And then once I started healing the relationship to myself and really looking at my patterns and having the self-awareness, everything changed. It was like everything that was my coping mechanism began to fall away. It's not like I was working on each thing individually to heal. It was like it all started to fall away around the same time because of the internal work that I was doing.
So let's talk about the internal work. How does someone go about healing themselves?
It first really starts with awareness around what your patterns are, the way that you think. And because if awareness is the catalyst for change, if you have no idea what's actually happening in your life or the patterns that you have or the way that, what your beliefs are, then you can't really change them. So you have to get really crystal clear on those things first and look at your behaviors, the way that you feel, and start getting really connected with ourselves. Because I think a lot of us are moving through life just on autopilot, doing the same thing that we've always done, thinking the same thoughts. We think, 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and most of them are the same as the ones we thought the day before. And so that's really what makes up our personality. And so we have to get really clear on what it is we're doing, saying, thinking, all of the things. And once we do that, we want to look at where it comes from. Where is this stemming from? Why? Where is this projection coming from? Where is this belief coming from? Because our beliefs really aren't even ours. They've been passed down for generations upon generations, and we think that we have to believe these things just because they're there. And so once you recognize that you can actually change your belief systems, you can change the way that you think, feel, and behave. That's the second piece, is just recognizing that that you can actually change your thoughts and your beliefs. A belief is only a thought you keep thinking. So if you start thinking different thoughts, inevitably you're going to start rewriting your story.
I mean, everything you just said is like what I say. So I'm not.
We are so insane.
I must not be crazy in this at all. But yeah, I mean, it's so true. Yeah, we have these 70,000 thoughts, and 90% of them are repetitive. So, and we're not even aware that we're having them. So and they're negative. So change the thoughts, rewire your brain, right?
Yeah.
Bring awareness to the situation.
Yeah, there's what I always tell my clients is like, we have the belief that drives the thought, that drives the feeling, that drives the behavior, that drives the experience, that confirms the belief that we thought. So if we start just changing that belief, then everything else is going to start changing, and then you're going to have different experiences that will then reaffirm the new belief. And I think a lot of people get stuck, especially seeing with the women that I work with, they get stuck. It's like they're doing the work, they're meditating, they're saying their positive affirmations, they're like, having different thoughts, but they're also staying stuck in the same behavior. So they're actually not changing their behaviors. And we have to have alignment and congruence with the way that we think, feel, and behave. And the behavior is the biggest, probably, I would say it's probably the most difficult thing to actually change, because it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of effort to actually do that. And so that's the biggest disconnect that I see, because women are like, I'm saying all these things, I'm doing all these things, but nothing's changing. And I'm like, well, are you still going back to the guy that you tell me that you don't want to date? Do you still text him when you get lonely? And it's like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, nothing's going to change then. So it's like that behavior has to align with the way that you're thinking and you're feeling.
Right. So you can change your entire thinking, rewire your brain, have all positive thoughts, but if you don't act on it, then nothing happens. It's like it doesn't get cemented in, right?
Yep.
So what are some action steps that you give to your clients?
I would say the biggest thing, I made a post about this the other day, is regulating the nervous system first and foremost. Because if we have a dysregulated nervous system, which is when we're in fight or flight mode, most of us have been in fight or flight mode since childhood. And so when we're in fight or flight mode, we're constantly trying to survive. So we're thinking thoughts that are causing us to be as if we're in danger and fear. And so meditating, breath work, allowing yourself to find peace any way that you can. Like I always say, when you feel good and have fun, everything you desire comes to you. So if you can get into, and you can't really have fun when you're constantly trying to survive. So if you can regulate your nervous system, even with 5 minutes of meditation or going on a walk and just kind of allowing your mind to be quiet, getting off the social media, just finding time for yourself that's the biggest piece that I always have my clients start with. Like I call it the miracle morning. And I have a course that my clients go through. And the very first module is all about creating a routine that's going to be beneficial for you in your life so that you have space to just be at peace. So that includes meditation, affirmations, that includes breath work, and some type of, body movement.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really all simple stuff, right?
But very simple. It's the things that we do every day. Like people think it's like, we have to do this really big thing once in a while. That's not going to make a difference. It's the small actions that we do every day that's going to make up who we are. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we have to start with. Those tiny little habits turn out to be quantum leaps.
Yep. What else? What other bigger action steps do you have your clients do?
For the bigger action steps, it's the way that they are relating to people. So a lot of what I teach is also like effective communication, getting really clear on their wants and their needs and being able to communicate that. So say my client is, I'll give you an example. One of my clients was in a toxic relationship. It wasn't healthy for her. And the first thing we needed to get clear on is, are you willing to leave? And so it's like those big action steps of being able to recognize what you want and then tell the person, this is what I want. These are my needs. And if you cannot meet these, then I have to do what's best for myself and I have to separate myself from you. And so it's like actually leaving a relationship. A lot of people don't actually leave relationships. They will leave, but then they'll still be involved to some degree. Maybe they're still having, they're still intimate with each other. They're still texting each other. And so it's like really cutting off the communication is one of the hardest things that I've seen with myself and with my clients, is actually letting go of that communication between themselves and a partner that's not healthy for them. And so that means cutting off the communication, not going back to it when you're lonely or you're sad or you're depressed or you're overwhelmed. That's the biggest thing that my clients go through is that. And then if they're going on a date, it's like they are learning how to receive from other people. And so being able to truly step into who they are. So doing more things that bring their authentic self out. I think a lot of people tend to not even know who they are, what they like. Mm-hmm. This is what I see with women a lot. I'm not sure how it relates to men, but
it's the same.
They have no idea who they are, what they want, what they like, what their likes are, what their dislikes are. And so they're going around dating people, but it's kind of like throwing a noodle at the wall and hoping it'll stick kind of thing, instead of knowing, these are my interests. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. This is what I tolerate. This is what I don't tolerate. And being able to actually communicate that. And if somebody's not a good fit, then being able to say that and then taking the action to walk away from that experience.
So before someone wants to dive into a new relationship, I think that first step of finding out who you really are is more important, right?
Yeah, that's all of what I teach. It's like I don't teach strategy in dating. I don't. It's like my clients end up like within months of us working together, they're releasing bad relationships and they're finding out who they are at their core. They're getting more comfortable with who they are. They're being able to express that. And that by itself, like I always say that the relationship is not the actual goal. It's the feeling, the feeling that magnetizes the relationship is the goal. And so when you are feeling so at home in your body and with yourself, then you just become a magnet for money, miracles, and relationships. And I see it all the time. It's like when we heal our relationship to ourselves, my clients are like, bringing in, I think 2 of my clients last month, they both manifested an extra $10,000. And it's like, we're not only healing our relationships to men, but we're healing our relationships to everything in general because of our worthiness. And so it's like, they don't only see their romantic relationships flourish, they see their relationships with their children, their parents, their friends. And it's all, again, an extension of the way that we feel about us.
Yeah, it's like when you change your vibration and your energy and how you value yourself, then the world gives you that same mirror back to you, right?
Yeah. So I just did a class the other day called Dripping with Magnetism. And on one of the days I was teaching about how to get out of victim mentality. And a lot of us get stuck in victim mentality. Even myself, I've noticed, when I'll slip back into it. And what victim mentality is just thinking that life is happening to you rather than for you. And so on the emotional guidance system scale, Victimhood is one of the lowest vibrations that we can have, and appreciation, joy, empowerment is the highest frequency that we can be vibrating at. And so if we're vibrating at that high frequency, it's inevitable that other things that are vibrating at that frequency are going to come into our world. That's just the way that it works. And so that's the way that we change everything in our external world, is by healing that relationship to self.
And would you say that we're almost like born into victim mentality?
I would say it definitely starts like between ages 0 and 7. That's when like we are fully in our subconscious. And so it's like everything that we're hearing from our parents, everything, the way that we get punished, the way that we really start viewing the world starts then, right when we're born.
And how many of us hear or heard from our parents that, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that, why are you wasting this? We don't. So it's like, it's almost ingrained in us, this we're not good enough or we don't have enough mentality.
Yeah.
And then we go through life, because you said that it is all just a vibration attracting the same nothingness, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing that I would say for myself and my clients as well is like this good girl mentality. Like you have to be good in order to earn love. So think about even like Santa, what we're telling our kids, like you have to be good or you're not going to get presents. You have to be good or Santa's going to put coal in your stocking. Like you have to be a good girl. Make sure that you are, behaving properly. And it's like your kids aren't supposed to be doing that. It's like it ingrains in your kid that you are only going to be loved when you act a certain way. And I think that was the biggest disconnect in my relationships, was I had to act a certain way in order to be loved. And it was really, really damaging. And it's like people can't really... You're going to attract all the people that are very conditional lovers. And when you love yourself unconditionally, a lot of the times our parents aren't doing it intentionally most of the time, but their love is conditional because they take it away when you're bad. They take it away when you don't, agree with them. And so now it's like we get to love and accept ourselves for who we are, what we believe. And when we can fully love and accept ourselves, then that's when we also give other people permission to love and accept us for all our wide range of emotions, all of our flaws, all of our, our mistakes.
Yeah, because is love with judgment even love?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it?
It's so conditional. It can be taken away, with a snap of a finger if you misbehave, if you say the wrong thing.
So what are some practical steps someone could take to get out of victim mentality? Or how do people even know that they're in it? Like, what are some signs that you're in it?
I would say, victim mentality, I used to be such a victim to my circumstances. I would always blame everyone around me. When I was younger, I was a single mother at 17, and I would always blame, everybody for my issues. I was like, I can't get out of the job I'm in because I'm a single mom and I don't get child support. Like even though that was true, I get to decide, like nobody has that power over me that I can't do something. And so when I started to stop being a victim, it was like, nobody's going to take that power away from me. And so when somebody's in the victim mentality of, I can't do this, or I can't be this way because somebody did this to me, that's you're giving your power away, which is what victim mentality is. We have so much power. We are so limitless, but we were taught otherwise. We were taught that, we can only be a certain way. And so by saying, like, my two favorite things to say is everything is happening for me. And instead of I can't, it's how can I? Because I see a lot of people that tell me they can't work with me because they're a single mom and they don't make enough money. I was like, well, I work with most single moms and they've figured it out. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you figure it out if you want to. Whatever's a priority to you, you can figure it out and you can make a way to do it. Because think about Tony Robbins and Oprah, like their childhoods, the things that they've gone through in life, like there's just no excuse not to be able to create a life that you want. And there's always a way, there's always a solution. And a lot of the times we get bogged down and we say, I can't do this. I can't do this because of the situation that I'm in. And it's like, do you want to be a victim of your circumstances, or do you want to be empowered and really create the life that you want? Because we're all capable.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I think a lot of times we don't even know that we're saying we can't, but
Right.
we are. Like, it doesn't have to come out of our mouth. It's just a thought that we're having.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that. And again, with these repetitive thoughts, how many times are you saying them? And you're literally like putting a block in your powers.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So tell me, so who's your ideal client?
My ideal client, I work with a lot of just very driven, career-oriented women, women who are very successful in their careers. However, their relationships are where they're wounded the most. And so it's women with codependency, anxious attachment, disorganized attachment, women that really just struggle to attract the right kind of partners. So somebody who's continuously attracting emotionally unavailable partners, that is not being able to solidify commitment with partners, narcissistic partners that they continue to attract. So I see all over the board, but that's essentially what women come to me for, is either getting out of a toxic relationship and getting into a healthier high value relationship, or they're coming to me single and wanting to get into relationship.
Yeah, and so these are successful women, but they just haven't found that self-love of themselves first, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, everything in business is so external. Like, their worth is based on how much money they're making, and everything that they control in business. It's like, oh, like I can control, what's happening with my business and my clients and this and that. But internally, that's where the perfectionist comes in. They can exude all their energy and push and force within business, and that really works for them. But when it comes to relationships, it's like, it's the exact opposite. It's you have to surrender, you have to let go, you have to receive. As women, we're meant to receive. And so being able to let go, surrender, receive, and basically do the opposite of what they're doing in business, that's where they get stuck. And so that's where I'm just bridging the gap and allowing them to see a whole nother side of relationships.
What are some specific example of client breakthroughs you've had?
One of my recent client breakthroughs is my client came to me. She was in like a 3-year on and off toxic relationship with a man who she was doing all of the dating things with. They would go on vacations together. They would talk every day. They would hang out, but he would not acknowledge her as his girlfriend. And so they wouldn't have that commitment together. And so she ended that, we call it a situationship. and after being in my program for 4 months, she really healed her codependency. She really started to get really clear on her boundaries, who she is, what she wants, standing up for herself. And in that process, a man that she went out on a date with a year ago that she pushed away, she started thinking about him, and I was like, don't reach out to him, see if he reaches out to you. Out of nowhere, this guy reached out to her, and they started talking again, and now they're in a committed relationship.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what advice would you give someone who's in a bad relationship right now?
The advice that I would give is it's time to release it, because you are meant for such a greater experience in life. Your relationships are the foundation of your life. And if you're in a toxic relationship, you can't move forward. That's going to consume you. And so my biggest advice is always, if it's toxic for you and if it's hurting your well-being, you need to leave. And that's one of the scariest things for people, because they don't want to be alone.
Right.
They want to go back to what's familiar. But being alone, and the reason people don't want to be alone is because they don't know who they are. They're scared of themselves. They don't like their own company. So my advice is you leave that relationship and you start building the most epic love affair of your life with yourself. And I promise you, the most perfect person will come in that's meant for you.
Wow. Take time for yourself.
Get to know who you are.
Get to know who you are, so then you can attract the right person, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Okay, we're gonna switch topics here.
Oh gosh, I'm nervous.
So now you're nervous about this. Yeah, we're
the other stuff I talk about all day long.
I know. We're totally gonna take a 180 spin, and listeners of this podcast know how much I talk about plant medicine because it's changed my life and it's changed other people's life. And you recently did some tepezguite, which is DMT. And well, first let's talk about why you decided to do this.
Well, you introduced me to the idea.
Okay.
Yes. You definitely introduced me to the idea. I had really wanted to get into plant medicine. I recently went through a breakup, and whenever I experience big events that are very painful in my life, I know that that's a sign for me to move and to hit that next level. Like I always I alchemize my pain into power. And so I knew that plant medicine was my next step. And so I originally had wanted to do ayahuasca, and I've been thinking about it for the last year. And then I decided I wanted to start with a smaller experience first. Mm-hmm. Even though this is not a smaller experience, it's just shorter. Very intense. It was the most intense experience of my life.
Talk about it.
Okay, so it's very fresh. I only did it a couple of days ago. Very
super fresh.
A lot of downloads have been coming since. And I didn't really know what to expect when I did it. But, the way that it's administered is that you do 3 sessions, and it lasts about 20 minutes each. And so the first session, you smoke it. And so I smoked this, and I didn't even know what was happening, like when it first hit me. And as I was going through this experience, it showed me where I really needed nurturing. Like I teach so much self-love, but nurturing is just such a different level of self-love. I think we forget to nurture ourselves. We expect, when we think about nurture, we think about, growing up and being nurtured by our caregivers. But this showed me that I need to nurture myself on a whole different level. And it's like there's a conscious level of self-love and nurturing, and then there's this deep subconscious level of nurturing. And I hit that subconscious level of what I need and how to nurture myself, and really have that kind of gentle relationship with myself that will in turn allow me to be more nurturing to my daughter. And so that was my first experience. It was all about nurturing and feeling nurtured and how to nurture myself moving forward. And it was a terrifying experience, to be honest.
So was it visual or just more like downloads and messaging?
I would say I don't even remember most of it, but all I remember is hearing everything is love, everything is love, everything is love. And then it was the downloads coming out of it. Mm-hmm. And so it just feels like everything happened so fast that that was the main message. And there was just some icky energy in there that, wanted to be released from childhood. And so I feel like I really did release a lot of trauma in that first experience. There was just that icky energy. And then it turned into I just started seeing a lot of yellow, and I was kind of going down this tunnel, and I had 2 choices at the end, and it was go towards the more scary feeling, down this other, tunnel. And then I started hearing everything is love, everything is love. And then it took me down this yellow tunnel that was a lot more safe and friendly. And so this whole time I'm in the fetal position. I come out of this experience, and I'm I don't even know what happened. I was just in the fetal position. I had a weighted blanket over me. When I just saw my hand, I was oh my God, I'm human again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second experience was amazing. It really did change me on like I feel like a cellular level. And it was like I started to see, I was in like a different dimension, and I started to see just these, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so hard to describe, but it was just like, you know, it's how do you put this into words? But the things that were coming up was like, I can rewrite these stories. I can, and one thing that kept popping into my head was like, what if you appreciated your pain as you would appreciate your joy? And so it was, you know, me rewriting my stories of my relationships, of my past, of everything that I'm going through now with coming out of a breakup. And so it's like you can rewrite these stories. And then I started to have these like revelations of everything that I've been experiencing with like the good girl mentality and the perfectionist. Like it's all a projection and it's not even me, and I don't have to live within those limits. And so, you know, I didn't even know that I was talking, but I started, the woman that was with me was like, you started like just yelling out these like affirmations of like, I am limitless. I release control. I release the limits. And the biggest thing for me in that moment, like I always thought that I was somebody who surrendered and started to, you know, go with the flow through my healing. And this just really showed me like there's so much more control to release. And I no longer have to live within the projections that have been put on me, within the limits that have been put on me. Like I get to rewrite my story the way that I believe it should be. And it was such an empowering experience. And I remember like I wanted to stay there. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I don't want this to end yet. Like I feel so powerful. And it's like, again, this is all stuff that I teach, but for me to feel this on a whole nother level, like at such a deeper cellular, subconscious, like otherworldly level, it hit so much deeper. And then my last experience, I started to try to control the experience because it was so scary. It's just like a scary thing to do when you're, you know, basically on another dimension. Like it's just scary.
When you don't have like mind control,
you
right?
have no control. And it's the craziest thing. Like you couldn't control anything if you wanted to. And so I kept trying to fight it. And I like wasn't following, the woman that I was with was like, you have to go deeper. You have to go deeper. And I was fighting it. And I told her I couldn't because I was so scared. And so I didn't get as much out of the third time as I wish I would have. But what it showed me was I still have so much fear, and like I have to face the fear head on. And you know, it's like you're not going to get away from the fear. You can't just avoid it. It's you're never going to get to the next level unless you face it head on, and it's going to be scary and it's going to be painful. But that's the way. Like your courage and your confidence is just like compounded courage. Like you facing the fear over and over and over again, hitting it head on, and allowing yourself to feel the pain and continue forward anyway.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing because as someone who teaches self-love, the plant medicine took you on the deepest level of self-love and was teaching you that that's all there is. That's all that's important is this love, true love of yourself on all levels, right? Yeah. It's literally on your first experience teaching you that.
Exactly.
Wow. So how would you sum it all up?
Very transformative. Like I can see how it's already starting to shift in the way that I've been talking to my clients in just a couple of days. Like I've already seen the shift in the way that I interact with my daughter. You know, it gives me so much more compassion in the way that I speak. And when I see her having big emotions, it's like, being able to hold those with more capacity. But it's honestly, it's like, it's something that you have to integrate and practice every day, because I think a lot of people get stuck in the sense of like, oh, you do this plant medicine and you're healed and everything's fine. But it's like, you actually have to take the action and bring it into your everyday life and start changing, because you're going to forget. And I mean, that doesn't mean that it didn't change some part of you for good, but if you really want an epic transformation after the plant medicine, you have to be in alignment with what you just learned.
Yeah, you have to integrate it here on Earth in this dimension, right, for it to have its effects.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Wow. So how do you feel now? I mean, it's been what, like 3 days, 2 days?
It's been, 2 days.
Yesterday, you said you were still kind of out of it.
I had so much anxiety yesterday, and I think that, I chalked that up to probably judging my experience, because I didn't fulfill what I came there to fulfill the third session, because I was too scared. And
you notice as soon as you start judging yourself, anxiety kicks in.
That's exactly
it's almost like, okay, stop judging yourself.
Yeah. And so there's just a lot of anxiety, and I feel like I'm also still releasing a lot of the trauma that came to the surface. And so there was a ton of anxiety yesterday, but ultimately, like, I feel very much more like at peace with everything that's happening. Like, my life is a little bit chaotic right now with moving and everything that's going on. There's a lot of big changes in my life. And so now I'm more at peace with those, because I know it's all happening exactly how it's supposed to happen, and
it's happening for you.
It's happening for me. It's all in the divine, blueprint of my life. So it gives me a sense of peace that I do feel like I've released a sense of control. And so it's like that continued, that's the biggest piece that I get to work on now, is embracing more of my nurturing part of myself that I've tucked away out of, pain and fear, and facing all my fears head on, and letting go of control, and just allowing life to do its thing with me.
That's awesome. Would you do it again?
Yes, I would. Like, when you told me that you were scared, and you get scared every single time, I was like, okay, like, it's not only me, like, it's not just me that's having these scary experiences, like, it's everybody. So I just, it's, if you want to get to that next level again, it's like, I have to face my fear. And I know that that's the next thing for me.
Yeah. It's like, fear is part of this whole equation.
Yeah.
If we run from it, then things are not going to get better. But if you face it head on, things will get better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you hit every time, it's like you're hitting a new level. I like to say that for every new level, there's a new devil. So there's always something, like, I think we all chase this ideal, like, oh, if I just do this one thing, then life will be good and easy. It's like, what I see in relationship is like, my clients are like, if I just had this relationship, then my life would be perfect. And I'm like, oh no, listen, you're going to get triggered in your relationships. Like, there's going to be new problems that you'll have to overcome in those relationships. So it's not like that's the end of the journey. And so it's all about facing and growing from the pain that you'll experience at every new level of your life.
Yeah, it never stops. I mean, I say it all the time, that we're literally in spiritual school here on Earth.
Yep.
It doesn't stop.
It's like a mountain with no peak. There's no destination. It's literally the journey of life.
It's the journey, but when you accept that this is part of the journey, then you find peace within it. You even find peace within the fear.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's like you can find the appreciation for the fear.
For sure. So what advice would you give someone who's potentially looking to do plant medicine?
Ooh. I would say if you feel called to do it, then it's probably your time, and release expectation, release control, and be with somebody you trust.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And do what you can to feel safe ahead of time. But ultimately, it's like trust that whatever you're supposed to get out of it, you'll get out of it.
For sure. Okay, podcast 59 with Morgan Danielle. I want to have you on again in maybe like a couple
Absolutely.
months if you do it again, or if not, regardless. But
Yeah.
we definitely want to have you back on. Podcast 59, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you ever have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.